Good afternoon, students, and my name is Ruben Mameja. I am your acolyte facilitator. I have a special role this afternoon to work with you through academic literacy with special or particular focus on writing the essay. I've said I've not put to you the learning outcomes, but what I am doing is to mediate the writing, academic writing or academic literacy, put or expressed broadly, to mediate academic writing, to mediate writing that you do at university, to help students move from the known to the unknown in the field or area of academic writing, so that at the end, students are empowered in their writings and they can apply the knowledge, skills learned and put a response to a topic together in a manner that is very convincing, persuasive, manner that can say to the marker, this student is worth a distinction mark, their work is worth a distinction mark. But writing is a process. When we write an essay, I hope you know this from high school, that it is a process, and you need to get into that process. If it's a process, it means it has different stages embedded to it or embedded in it, or you have to go through or put your writing through different stages, right? And those stages are very important, and you would find that at the end, in fact, when you are working with what you would call your final piece or your final essay, you would still want to add a few more new things to it, because now you have refined and re-refined it, and now you can still rework it in some areas to just give it that final touch that would make it an outstanding response, impressive response that addresses the topic fully. So it is a process, and if it's a process, it has different phases. Writing has different phases that we need to put it through. Now, in the pre-writing phase or in the writing process, the pre-writing phase, the word pre suggests before you do the draft, or before you start writing a response to your essay topic, this is what you do. You pick a topic and analyze it. Okay, don't skip the pre-writing phase. You do that, you run the risk of getting into a topic of your choice with a presumption on your side that I have understood fully the topic and I know what I am actually doing. Yet you may have missed the mark by omitting the pre-writing phase. You need to analyze the topic you have chosen, and I will take you through the analysis of topic and see what you need to do after you have chosen a topic. And following the analysis, breaking it down into sections that are easy for you to understand, and having convinced yourself that now I understand what I am to do with this topic. Having done that, then you can start the process of investigating or gathering information on the topic of your choice. Or if it is not gathering the topic, if it's not gathering the ideas, you can generate ideas depending on whether you are addressing this topic in or under controlled examination conditions. If it's a controlled exam room, obviously you have no time, much of the time, unless you are given the material. You have not much time to gather information unless you are given material or sources to work with where you will select relevant information to include in your essay. If you don't have such, you are solely relying on generating ideas after you have analyzed the topic. Then you now have ideas that are written on paper, they are written all over the place, they are not organized in any order. Now you have the duty to now look at those ideas and say, which idea do I start with and which idea do I end with? So you arrange those ideas which you have generated in an order which would present your essay in a logical manner. So this procedure is important before you start the writing, before you start drafting your essay. All right, so to recap, you do topic analysis, you gather or generate ideas, and you organize the ideas that you've generated or gathered. Usually when you do research, you gather ideas. Not only do you do that, but you also need to be generating ideas. But if it's a controlled exam conditions that I've said, you are likely to be relying on ideas that you have learned as you were studying. You'll be relying on contemporary or rather current affairs. You'll be relying on what is happening out there in the media and use the ideas from there to construct a response. But then having done that, you also need, or you have the responsibility of organizing those ideas in a logical order. Right, let's look into the topic analysis. As I've said, what do you do when you are analyzing the topic? Remember, you have chosen this topic because it resonates with you. You have, you identify with what the topic says, the content words that are used in the topic. You believe that there is much that you can relate with in the topic, and therefore it's a topic that works with what you have been exposed to. It's a topic that works, that is relatable on your side, and therefore you choose that topic. You feel strongly about certain things that are being mentioned in the topic, and so you choose the topic because you believe this is not going to end in a sort of a writer's block where you are just stuck and not able to generate any ideas that you could use to address the topic. So it's a topic that stimulates you to really come up with different ideas, which are, of course, ideas that can be supported with evidence. So I choose that topic which I relate with strongly. Now, of course, I then have to do certain things after choosing the topic. What are those? I need to go through the topic once again and identify key words. I need to identify keywords. These keywords are content words, are words that carry the content of the essay. Words such as socialism, punishment, these could be the keywords that perhaps are content words upon which the foundation of your essay is based. I hope you get that a topic has keywords, and you need not neglect those keywords because those are words that guide you on what content you should choose to address the topic, the keywords. Maybe we should practically look at a topic and identify those keywords, but examples are given to you in this slide. Now, having identified the keywords in the topic, remember, you are analyzing the topic, you are breaking it down to get it or to make it accessible to you. That's the starting point. If you really move quickly into addressing the topic, you may have jumped a very key step in the process of analyzing with the intention of understanding exactly what you are required to do. Spend time on the analysis. It will help you to move faster when you are writing, because you are writing from a position of strength that I understand what I am doing because I know what the examiner wants or is instructing us to do. Now you circle or underline the instructional verbs. Now, what are these instructional verbs? Instructional verbs are those question words, or not question words always, but they are those instruction words which really tell you what to do with the essay. The instructional verbs need not be neglected. What are you asked to do? Are you asked to discuss? Now, if so, what is to discuss? Are you asked to explain? If so, what is to explain? Are you asked to evaluate critically? If so, what is to evaluate critically? The statement above. Are you asked to argue? If so, what is to argue? Don't take these instructional verbs for granted, because they actually instructing you on your approach to the essay or the question. They give you an idea on or as to what you should do with the topic, or how you should address the topic. Imagine you omitted to pay attention to the instructional verbs: explain, discuss, evaluate, critically, argue. You just neglect to pay attention to those. Are you going then to discuss in your essay? If you neglected to pay attention to the instructional verb discuss, you won't discuss. Worse, if you do not know what is to discuss, what is to write, or how do you write a discursive essay, an essay that discusses, right? If you are asked to evaluate, what are you to do when you're evaluating a statement critically? If you are asked to argue and you neglect to pay attention to that instructional verb, you risk not getting to the question itself or the topic itself and getting to address it fully in your writing. Right, now you look at your essay topic. What are the instructional verbs that are used? Open your tutorial letter. Go to the page where the essay topic is given and find out what your instructional verb or verbs are. Circle them or highlight them. These are words that say what or tell you what you should do. Perhaps you should also underline the key words, content words that carry the content of the essay. When you do that, you're analyzing. It's the pre-writing phase. You're analyzing the topic. Can you do that? I suppose you have that on the table somewhere, and you are doing exactly what I'm asking you to do. I don't know what topic you are working with at this point. I'm hoping on Friday I will be able to get into those topics. And I'm hoping that you would have analyzed and knowing exactly what you should do. Identify what the rubric or the marking criteria that is given requires you to do in order to produce an outstanding response. Some of the students will really not even go to the rubric or the marking grid. Usually your rubric is provided. Maybe at the end of the tutorial letter, you will find it there attached. It's important that you go through the descriptors that are given in the rubric. starting from the lowest to the highest level. The lowest usually would be the poor level, and the highest would be the outstanding or the meritorious or the level that the student achieves. But then there are descriptors that are given there. It's important to check what can give your essay a level 7 content mark. What can give your essay a level 7 language mark? Okay, think about those before you even start writing, so that you check your work against the rubric. You are basically doing self-assessment as you write your essay. Are you pitching it to the level that is expected in the rubric to obtain an outstanding mark? Also, it is important to read the injunctions or restrictions, things that you are not to do. They are always given in the instructions. So you read that there would be things that you should not do. We'll touch that a bit in the slides that follow. There will always be given information that accompany the topic. The given information is part of the topic, and it could be in the form of a claim, in the form of a quotation or a definition. Familiarize yourself with that information. It will help you understand, or it will deepen your understanding of the topic further. And of course, at the end, make a checklist of what the question requires, or a mind map of what the question requires. This is topic analysis. And it is important that each one of your students, before you address the topic given, you engage in this procedure and you are convinced at the end that I understand what I am to do. Okay, this is theory. Let's get to the rubric. This is not your rubric. This is just a rubric that I picked somewhere and I put it here to show you level 1. In fact, here I have 5 levels. I have level 1, which is the highest. You can see that the range is between 75% and 100% mark. And a student who obtains, a student who obtain a level 1, in this case level, they use the opposite, and I would think of level 5 as the highest, but then here the level 1, the top level 1 would be the highest mark that the student obtains. And in this case, you have the range given there, 75% to 100% range that the student's mark could be in with regard to content and structure, with regard to language, with regard to presentation. Now, if your content and structure is level 1, as per the rubric on your screen, it means the following in terms of content and structure, and we're going to talk structure. It means the following. And remember, the keywords help you understand what expected content you should provide. The structure, we will work on how an essay should be structured. But then if you get a 75% to 100% mark on content and structure, how should that look like? It should provide us with an irrefutable evidence of sound interpretation and knowledge of the topic. Do you see? You cannot have a sound understanding or interpretation of the topic unless you have analyzed it. Unless you have analyzed the topic. And then what else? In terms of structure, there is logical development of ideas. The paragraphs follow each other, or ideas in the paragraphs follow each other logically. So there's logical and excellent development of ideas. It's very, very evident. But you ask yourself, what is logical? It means the ideas in your essay or in your paragraphs, they flow together. They flow together. There is no idea in the paragraphs and between the paragraphs that work against the other, or that opposes the other, that flows in the different direction compared to the rest of the ideas in that paragraph or in the essay. So it is logical because it flows together. There's no one odd idea that has been dropped into that paragraph that messes up the paragraph structure. If you hear what I'm saying, it must flow together. But what do we mean by flow together? It must flow together, and not only flow together, it must also do what? Stick together. That gives you a level 1 range in terms of content and structure. And again, it's well researched with accurate referencing skills. This is a student who knows how to reference. This is a student who knows which reference style or referencing style they should use before they write their essay. And they employ that style right through the essay. They know what is in-text referencing, and they know how to do it. And so these are the skills, these are the literacies that students need to, academic literacies that students need to put into their writing so that their writing can be fit for purpose, insightful and original. It shows deep understanding of the topics, insightful, it is revealing to the reader, it is informative to the reader, it is just an essay that you cannot put down. You want to continue reading because it is even empowering to you, the reader, because of the insight that the essay gives to the reader. It's highly selective. It uses supporting details. The paragraphs are using supporting details. It uses a captivating introduction and a highly convincing conclusion. Now, if it lacks introduction, if it lacks conclusion, then we have a problem with structure already. The content may be there, but the structure will be lacking. So obviously you won't get a 75% to 100% range in your mark allocation. You won't get to that. Hope you understand the importance of going through the rubric before you start writing. Do you understand the topic? Have you applied your mind to the topic? Have you understood the instructional verbs, what the examiner is instructing you to do? Have you applied the referencing skills, and which referencing style are you using? Are you using it correctly? Have you applied the correct structure to your essay? Is the introduction evident? Is the concluding paragraph evident? How did you write it? Does it have any structure, the introduction? Does it have any structure, the conclusion? What about the body paragraphs? Is your essay flowing, the ideas in your essay flowing together? They're doing that. If they are not, then you will not really hit the 75 to 100% mark on content and structure. Let us look at the opposite end of the best mark. This would be a poor mark that the student obtains on content and structure. It would be a content that shows little evidence or gives very little evidence, and which proves that the student lacks understanding of the topic because the student has not analyzed the topic. They have little or no understanding of academic writing. They don't reference. They give generalized statement. They give their opinions, and they do not provide supporting information. The paragraphs are muddled, no flow of ideas. There is a disconnect between paragraphs. There is no link of information. The ideas are fragmented, disjointed, muddled. There's lack of preparatory reading of study material. There's just too little information that the student is giving, and that's a 0 to 29% mark. If the language is one of the requirements, what should the language do? If you get an excellent mark on language, it is a language that shows excellent command of grammatical structures. It's error-free. It's an essay that is free of language errors, free of grammatical errors. It's edited, and that is why writing is a process, because at the post-writing phase of writing, the student has an opportunity to do what? To edit or proofread their work or revise the ideas they give. So proofread, edit, revise. That's what you do in the post-writing phase to check for those grammatical errors, spelling errors, word order errors, so that you give it the Midas touch. The student shows sophisticated use of diction or words. The word diction means words. And they are using linking devices such as furthermore, however, nevertheless. In addition, these linking devices, they give the essay the cohesion that it needs. They show mastery of language conventions. There is a near perfect discourse or language use of language, application of language. But they can get a poor mark because their language is showing poor vocabulary, the sentence structure and punctuation is incorrect, they have no knowledge of grammar structures. What about the presentation? It's an excellent presentation. It is outstanding, painstakingly done, exceptionally neat and legible. It's clearly defined, paragraphs, breaks. There's also bibliography, and it is meticulously listed. You see, you have to do these things in order to get a distinction mark. But if the presentation is cluttered and the essay is poorly typed and there is no bibliography, you cannot expect anything between 75 and 100%. All right, the overall comment for an essay that ranges between 75 and 100 would be excellent to outstanding, whilst 0 to 29 would be very poor to poor. You don't want to be there, very poor to poor. You want to be excellent and outstanding. And as you write, you want to go back and see if you measure your writing against these descriptors of content and structure, language and presentation to ensure that your writing is matching these requirements. So the rubric is important. When you write, we are still, remember, in the pre-writing phase. We have not yet started drafting. Writing is a process. Before you even write, you read the requirements and the things that you should not do, the injunctions. Do not jeopardize your chances of success by ignoring instructions. Instructions such as the length of your essay. Don't ignore the word limit. You are given 500 words, stick to it. And don't go to 800 words. There's a format requirement as well that you need to pay attention to. They may say that you must write a paragraph, don't write point form. They may say you write an argumentative essay, don't write a discursive essay, but write a according to the format that is given. You may be asked, or you will be asked, to provide a bibliography or the reference list. You need to do that. And the injunctions could be the things that you should not do. Do not copy from the textbook. Do not just lift information and it's plagiarism and paste it. You know, students who do cut and paste is not helpful. It is to be avoided. Remember, in the writing process, rather in the pre-writing phase of the writing process, we said we do topic analysis, and I've taken you through the topic analysis stage of the pre-writing phase. We said that there we identify the topic and we analyze it by identifying the keywords, the content, or the words that carry the content of the essay. We said that we here are also paying attention to the instructional verbs: discuss, evaluate, argue. Those are words that tell us what to do. We also here are looking at the perhaps looking at other things in this phase of the writing process, the injunctions, things that we should not do, and the requirements, things that we should limit. Those things are very important for us to consider, and we also are asked to really put together a writing that is convincing, that is error-free, in order for us to get a very good mark. And I said to you that it's important in this phase to also check your rubric and see what the requirements there are for an excellent mark. And now, the next thing we do in the pre-writing phase after we have analyzed the topic is to gather and generate ideas. Now, as the word says, gather. When you're gathering, you are collecting. It means you have a source from which you collect these ideas. There's a difference between gathering and generating. When we gather, paragraph 2, when we gather ideas, it means we are studying a material, or we are studying a source that gives us information. So we pick out relevant information from the source. We pick out keywords and the main ideas which are relevant to the topic. That is us gathering the ideas from the source. We must, as we do that, not forget the page number from which we obtained or we got that information. And we should also ensure that the gathering ideas, you have a source that you are working with and you gather ideas from that source. And these ideas must be relevant to the topic. And when you do so, whatever idea you copy or you get from a source, you need to write next to that idea the page number, because this will be important information when you do in-text referencing. And of course, you need to think of paraphrasing those statements that you are getting from the source, because you are encouraged as a student at university to use your own words as far as possible and not to keep quoting verbatim information that you obtain from a source, but to express it in the words of your own. You see, that is very important consideration. But the other thing that I want to mention here is, how do you generate ideas? Now, this is where you are brainstorming, you're coming up with ideas of your own that are relevant to the topic. Of course, things that come into your mind when you think of the topic, and you put these things down on a list or a mind map so that you will come back to this, and having done so, you can then organize those ideas. This is what you do. You are very systematic, because I've analyzed the topic, I know what I'm expected to do, and then I generate ideas on the topic or gather ideas on that same topic. And now, following that, what do? I need to arrange ideas in the order that they should appear in the essay itself. So I'm organizing those ideas. Now, before you can start writing, you need to have an overview of what your essay will look like. This is like a house plan. Imagine a person who wants to build a house without a plan. You know, plan will usually look beautiful before this brick and mortar structure is put in place, and you appreciate, you love the house before it's even built to completion. You choose that plan and you say, I choose plan A in the place of plan. Why? Because plan A looks beautiful, attractive, and it looks modern than plan B. And so you choose it even before you see a physical structure put together. You see, this is giving us the idea of the importance of pre-writing phase, because at the end of the pre-writing phase, you will have organized those ideas, arranged them in the order that we would want them to be presented in the essay itself. And so I look at these ideas, and based on the topic, and these ideas are relevant to the topic, I understood, correctly interpreted the topic. And then what is next? What is next is to arrange those ideas, organize them in a logical manner. And I see this beautiful sketch of a plan, and I am just looking at it with excitement because I know what is coming out of this plan. Do you see that? The same way I would appreciate a house plan and choose house plan A over house plan B, because I think this would look far better than a house plan B. But if you don't have a plan at all and you start building, you are likely to make structural errors, and your house might not look nice after all. Similarly, when you write an essay without the pre-writing phase, without generating ideas, without gathering ideas, without analyzing the topic, without organizing those ideas, you are likely now getting into that writing or to do the writing without the foundation that will help your writing to become very, very fit for the purpose that you are doing that writing for. Hope you catch the flow of the presentation. Right. Here is organizing the ideas. What you do, it already is self-explanatory, because when we organize ideas, we do what? We arrange the ideas in categories or in groups. We classify them. We arrange them in the order that we want them to be, showing what, or you putting together what is similar and against what is different, and trying to think how are we going to present these ideas in the body of the essay itself, and how are the paragraphs going to be logically connected, and all of that thought through as you move those ideas around, arranging them in the order that you want them to be presented in your essay, and you like it because it makes sense even before you start writing. And when you're writing, you just put that sense on a bigger paper and you broaden it with more details up to the end. But it makes sense right at the beginning in the planning or pre-writing phase before it is broadened on the paper, on the bond paper, where the bigger picture is revealed in the essay itself. It was already exciting to you before you could actually have the details provided in the body of your essay. Right, I've done that. And so Think about these things before you write. You've chosen your topic, and when you chose your topic, you also needed to do certain things. Think about the audience and the purpose of your writing. Still in the pre-writing phase. Think of who is the reader of my essay. Worry about the reader of your essay. Make your writing very clear to the reader of your essay. Remember, you may not be writing to a friend. Your reader may not be your friend next door. Your reader may be a lecturer. And so, because it's your lecturer, usually you would write a response or an essay using a formal tone. An informal tone. It means the diction or word choice there would be more reserved, more serious than it would be when you are writing to a friend or a relative. If you ask who will read the essay, will my lecturer be my only reader, or will others also read it? What does my audience already know about the topic? What information will my readers expect? Should I use formal or informal? I encourage that you use formal language. Vocabulary that I'm using, how should I adjust it to make it more appealing to my readers? Also on the purpose. Remember, you have thought through it. You have thought on the reader. Who is going to read? What tone should I adopt? Should it be formal or informal? What then is the purpose of your writing? Why are you doing this writing? Are you doing it to inform us? Or are you doing it to persuade us? Or are you writing to entertain? Think based on the topic what the purpose of your writing is. Now, there are different forms of writing, or there are different essay types. We have here, and I'm going to focus on these two. We have expository essay writing, and we also have argumentative essay writing. I'm not sure, and some essay topics would ask you to compare and contrast ideas, but for now I have these two. Depending on what your essay topic says, we will then move in the direction of your essay topic in deciding what type of essay should we write based on your essay topic. Now, here we have expository essay writing and argumentative essay writing. So we want to look at these two forms of writing and see exactly what the requirements are, and stick to these requirements when you are writing a response to your essay, depending, of course, on what you are asked to do, the style of writing that you should engage with. Yes, I can hear you. Is it 24?
Yeah, 24. I just want to ask
Yes,
you a question.
yes.
When you are writing your essay, does it matter how you do your paragraphs, or you just have to do paragraphs anyhow you want them to be, or do we get to be given something for you on how you should put your paragraphs and stuff?
A good question, 24.
Yeah, that's what I want to there.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for the question. It does matter. Remember, when we looked at the rubric, we saw that there was the criteria given on content and structure of your essay. And when we looked at the details or criteria included there, or the descriptors under that content and structure criteria, we found that the structure requires that we organize the ideas in paragraphs or into paragraphs. And the paragraphs must flow, or the ideas within the paragraph must flow and stick together, and the ideas between the paragraphs must flow and stick together. So there is, of course, an expectation on students to write paragraphs in a way that shows that the students knows how to put a paragraph together. In other words, when you write 24, a paragraph, you need to know, you need to do it from or let me put it this way, from a position of knowledge. You do not just put pen on paper and say it's a paragraph because it has 8-9 lines. No. A paragraph needs to be organized. It needs to have the beginning, it needs to have the middle part and the ending part. Now, what do you write? What do you begin your paragraph with? What content do you put in the middle part of your paragraph? And how do you end your paragraph? You see, that is the organization of the paragraph. And students need to become very much aware of that so that they do not just put everything into the paragraph as it comes to mind. They just write this thing into the paragraph, and because they just want to have a paragraph anyway. There are guidelines to an effective paragraph. You need to stick to those guidelines. When you assess your own paragraph, you need to be able to say checklist of my paragraph indicates that this paragraph should have a topic sentence, this paragraph should have the explanation, this paragraph should have evidence, this paragraph should be the link sentence. So a paragraph needs that kind of structure. That is the body paragraph I'm talking about. The introduction paragraph also needs to have some points evident in it. I need to see certain things to be satisfied that this is an introduction. Without those, it is not an introduction, or it's not sufficiently fulfilling the requirements of an introduction. The same with the concluding paragraph. I need to see certain things in it to be convinced that it is a conclusion. There are guidelines that you follow when you write an introduction. There are guidelines that you follow when you write body paragraph. There are guidelines you follow when you write a concluding paragraph. You don't do it haphazardly. You don't do it without controls. Those control measures need to be known to the students, because if students know these measures, they are now writing their essays from positions of strength because they know what they are doing. I hope that addresses the question. Right, going back to the slide. The presentation here is about now is beyond the pre-writing phase. Now I'm drafting. I am drafting this essay, and I am going to draft an expository essay or an argumentative essay. I don't know what your topic is. The topic would determine the type of writing you should do. Should you do expository writing or discursive writing, or should you do argumentative writing? Regardless of which writing you are doing, if it's argumentative, if it's expository, compare, contrast, discursive, whichever writing form you are asked to do, all of them, they have structure. This is what 24's question was about, structure. If you look at the structure here, it's interesting that the first shape of triangle at the top of this diagram is a triangle that faces down, and at the bottom there is the same triangle, but this time is facing up. And if you look in the middle of these two triangles, you have these blocks that are of the same color and the same shape. These are called the middle paragraphs, all right? But the interesting thing about this structure is that the first shape of the introduction and the last shape of the conclusion are same exactly. The difference is they are all facing the opposite direction. But also noticeable in this structure is that the two shapes are holding the blocks together, the paragraph blocks together. You know, they are in the middle, they are holding the paragraph blocks together. If you look at this shape as a whole, this diagram as a whole, it's a diagram that actually is holding together, is two triangle blocks together in the middle. That's what an essay does. Think of a burger essay. A burger has a top bun and a bottom bun. The two buns taste exactly the same. In the middle of the bun are your lettuce, tomato, if you're a vegetarian, things like those. You could also have what? Maybe a chicken, what you want to do with a burger. But in the middle is your rich, juicy stuff that you put there, but they are held together by the top and bottom bun so that you are able to eat this burger together at a go. I love eating a burger without cutting it in pieces. I love opening my mouth wide and chewing the burger together, cutting the top bottom bun and squeezing the middle part in my mouth and enjoying the mixture that has been made by the person who prepared the burger. So it works together. It's what we call burger because it is a burger because it has all of those things together. The same with an essay. It is not an essay if it lacks an introduction and conclusion. But what the two parts should do is to hold together the information in the middle or the body paragraphs. In other words, what you find in the introductory paragraph should again come back in the concluding paragraph. That is why the two paragraphs are of the same shape. It's because they are not dissimilar as such. Information in the introduction is confirmed in the concluding paragraph. The two paragraphs, the first and the last paragraph, are not divorced from each other. They are married, and they are paragraphs that actually, one, the introduction starts it starts the essay by saying or stating what the essay is going to do or what the essay is about, and the ending paragraph, which is the conclusion, it sums up what you said you were going to do initially in the introduction. It actually confirms what you said you were going to do in the introduction. So you cannot have an essay like that. It's without these two. Otherwise, we will be lost in the thicket of the ideas that you are expressing, because it doesn't seem to have the beginning and the end, and everything is just thrown in, and there's just no connections that we see as we read your response. So I want you to think of the shapes here that are the two not similar. Does it mean that your introduction and conclusion should be similar? They must be similar indeed. The concluding paragraph confirms what you have started with in your introduction. That is why the shapes of the two are not dissimilar. Think of a burger. It has those two that taste exactly the same, the buns that taste exactly the same, and in the middle is the meaty stuff that you need, and the veggies that you need, vegetables that you need, and that your body need. But when you eat it together, and that makes it a burger. So you write a burger essay that tastes together, that would be eaten as one thing, and nothing in it is pulling it, is just pulling it in the direction of what? In the direction of, say, a meal that is not burger. Because if there is something like that in it, it's an odd ingredient that needs to be taken out. It doesn't belong there. And so when we write an essay, we have that structure in mind. Perhaps the analogy doesn't work for you, but I'm trying to say there must be a structure when you write an essay. Without the structure, really, it falls flat of becoming a very good essay that addresses what needs to be addressed. Let's look at the two forms of writing: essay writing, expository essay. And remember, keep the structure in mind. expository and argumentative writing. If you are doing an expository writing or a discussion, you are exploring the topic from many angles. But if it is an argumentative essay that you are writing, you don't do the many angles like you do with the expository writing. What you're doing, you choose a position, and you choose a position whether you are for or against the topic. And once you have chosen that position, you're defending that position. You choose that position in the introduction, and you defend that position right through the body of your essay. It is not the same with expository essay. You don't choose a position. In other words, you are revealing the different angles of the topic. In other words, the discussion or expository essay has different facets to it. If you think of a crystal, it has different facets to it. Think of a pentagon. The pentagon is a shape that has different facets. The same thing is the same shape, but it has different facets to it. The same with the expository essay. What it does is to expose as much information, or to reveal the different sides of the topic to the reader, so that the reader becomes better informed about the topic that you are writing on. Hope it helps you to understand the difference there. So if you are asked to discuss or write an expository essay, bear that in mind, that this writing is neutral and this writing has many angles. You look at the topic from many angles, and the intention is to make the reader become aware and to be fully informed on the topic, so that they are able to make a decision that is sound at the end. So this type of writing, or genre of writing, that is explain, to illustrate, to clarify, explicate, or explain something clearly in a way that it becomes very clear to the reader. Think of a discussion. If you are discussing something at home and you are really discussing it, one will come up with this point, another one a different point, etc. But these points are all based on the same topic that you are all discussing. One is revealing this side of the topic, the other one revealing the next side or the different side of the same topic. And at the end, all of us who are participants in the discussion will have a very good perspective of the subject or the topic under discussion. And we are able to make up our mind on what choice we should make on the subject or on the topic. I hope you get it, because we are better informed. Why? We revealed all different sides of the topic in our discussion, so that a person at the end can make an informed decision on the topic itself. That is what you do when you are writing a discussion or discursive essay or expository essay. You are given, if you are doing expository essay, you are given a topic, and you need to think information that represents both sides of the topic, not just one side, like you would do in an argumentative essay, where you are focusing on just defending one side and making sure that your side is the one that becomes at the end the winning side. Not so with expository essay. Here you're revealing both sides or multiple sides of the topic, so that the reader is better informed on the topic. And what about expository essay thesis statement? Now, I may talk thesis statement, a term which perhaps may be unfamiliar to the students, but I think we will unpack it further. The thesis statement, what is the thesis statement? I'm not going to tell you now what it is. We will get to it later on. But an expository essay thesis statement presents the writer's topic. Once the thesis statement of an argumentative essay presents the writer's argument. In other words, it presents the writer's position on the topic. Okay, hope you get the differences between expository essay and argumentative writing. As is clear, an expository essay is an exposition, an illustration or investigation for the purpose of clarification, and it is neutral. However, with argumentative essay, I'm reading on the side of the argumentative. Here you take a clear position about a topic, and you then present the side that you want to support, and there is no objectivity here. There's no neutrality here. It is subjective because the writer wants their side to be the winning side. Whilst the expository essay, it may be written in the first person. Expository essay may be written in the first person, but the argumentative essay is usually written in the third person. Bear that in mind. What about further information on the expository essay writing? How do you write the introduction? 24, you asked about paragraphs. This is how you write an introduction of an expository essay, not an introduction of an argumentative essay. Expository or discussion essay, the introduction should have these guidelines or should follow these guidelines. Is the following. Please bear this in mind. If you write an introduction and it doesn't have these things, it is an introduction that has been constructed, but it lacks what makes a good introduction. These are the points that need not be neglected when you write an introduction. You need to address these things in your introduction. Make sure that the main topic of your entire essay is written right at the beginning of your introduction. We call this the thesis statement. Begin your introduction with the thesis statement. This is the structure of your introduction. Begin it with a thesis statement. Some students may end their introduction with the thesis statement, but I urge that at this stage, begin with the thesis statement. This is the main topic of your entire essay. Now, the question is, how do you write a thesis statement? It's one thing to know a thesis statement, rather, it's one thing to know where to locate the thesis statement in your introduction, but totally another to know exactly how to construct a thesis statement. Now, what is a thesis statement? I said I was going to explain what this is. A thesis statement, it consists of a topic and the controlling idea. It means that there would be words in the thesis statement that come directly from the topic, and in addition to the topic words, you add your position on the topic words. In other words, you add your controlling ideas to the topic words. So it consists of the two parts. The first part, or the one part, would be your topic part, and the other part would be your controlling ideas. In other words, the ideas that you are going to use to address the topic. So a thesis statement consists of the topic and the idea or ideas that you will use to address those or that topic. Let me repeat. A thesis statement consists of a topic and the idea or ideas that you will use to address that topic. Make sure that your introduction attracts your reader's interest. Make sure that it gives the necessary background information or definition. Now, when I read your introduction, do I find that there is a thesis statement that you begin your introduction with? Do I find that your introduction is giving necessary background information or is giving definitions? Because we want to see those. But some introduction, they neglect to give necessary background information or definitions. But your introduction cannot, I can forgive you for ignoring giving necessary background or definition. That can be forgiven. But if you leave out the thesis statement, there's just no way you can get away with that one. You must always have it there to show the reader what the topic is and how you intend to address the topic in the body of your essay. Remember, when you write the introduction, it is not the place where you give examples. Examples will be given in the body paragraphs. This essay, rather this introduction, must be brief and to the point, and it should not give us details. We will get the details in the body paragraphs where you have more space and time to elaborate. Now, a good introduction gives the reader information that summarizes the body of your essay. Now, after reading the introduction, I, as the reader, should predict what the essay is going to be about or what the structure of the essay is as a whole. I should be able to do that after reading the what? The introduction. I must be able to predict. It should help me to predict what to expect in the essay as a whole. Clear? I hope it is clear. To summarize, what should go into an introduction? One, your introduction must have the following things. One, it must have the thesis statement. Two, it must, and not compulsory, it should give us some background information on the topic, or it should give us definition of keywords or content words that you will be dealing with or addressing in the body of your essay. Three, your introduction basically should avoid giving examples or details. Those ones, they can be given in the body paragraphs. Avoid giving examples and these details that are necessary at this stage. You want to be brief and to the point. Four, remember, after reading your introduction, I should be able to predict what to expect in the body of your essay, or what the structure of your essay is going to be like. I should be able to do that after reading your introduction. If I cannot see these things, and if I cannot do these things, it means your introduction is not ready for submission. What is a thesis statement of an expository essay? It will have the topic, as I've said. A thesis statement consists of the topic and the controlling idea or your position on the topic. So the two cannot be separated, the topic and how you will address that topic. They should always come or go together. Let's look at an example of a thesis statement given. Reading develops a child's mind. It means reading developing a child's mind is what was given in the topic, or what is given in the topic, that reading develops a child's mind. But then, how are you going to show that reading develops a child's mind? You're going to show it by proving that it increases, or it encourages comprehension skills, it increases vocabulary, it exposes them to new worlds they might not otherwise encounter. So I will see the topic and the controlling idea that shows how you will address the topic. Here you say it develops the child's mind. By doing what? You're going to show us that it develops the child's mind by developing comprehension skills, by increasing vocabulary, by exposing them to new worlds that they might not otherwise encounter. So these are points, ideas that you are going to use to address the topic, reading develops the child's mind. Now, that's your thesis statement. With this thesis statement, of course, there are several ideas and not just one idea or one generic idea that the writer would focus on. Here's an example of a paragraph that has a thesis statement. It's an example of a paragraph that has a thesis statement. I want you to look at it with me so that we see if this paragraph is really doing what it should do. It is by the way, it is a what? It is a paragraph that I think was written by a student, and it should have a thesis statement in it. It should have some background information, if you like. It should also have it must be a paragraph that gives the writer the light into what the essay is going to be about, or what the essay will be addressing. So those must be very evident in the essay itself. Now, I'm going to ask that we take at least 5 minutes analyzing this paragraph. We are going to use the following criteria. We check if the paragraph has a topic, if it has a thesis statement. We also check if it gives background information or definitions. We also check if the paragraph gives you a summary of ideas which will help you as the reader to know what to expect or to predict what to expect in the body of the essay itself. So rework this paragraph and tell us if it addresses those 3 requirements of a good introduction. If it does, then the paragraph is on the right track. If it is not, then it needs to be changed, and so that it's able to do what it is supposed to do. Okay, you have read through the introduction. Please remember the topic: social maladies like crime, teenage pregnancy, illiteracy. These are social ills. HIV/AIDS are fundamental threats to the country's development. Discuss. Now look at the instructional verb, discuss. So you are discussing, you're not arguing. 2 of these issues and illustrate. Look at the 2 instructional verbs. 1 is to discuss, and as you discuss, you are illustrating how they potentially affect the development of a nation of your choice. Maybe a nation of your choice is South Africa. But let's walk step by step through the introduction. We have a topic that says social maladies hamper development of a country or nation. And we now have to discuss these issues that hamper the development of a nation, or that threaten the country's development. We discuss 2 of them, and which 2 of any of these ones that are given. We either do crime and teenage pregnancy, or we do illiteracy and teenage pregnancy, or teenage pregnancy and HIV and AIDS country's development. We choose any 2. Then, having done that, we want to illustrate how these 2 social ills can affect a nation of our choice, and in this case, South Africa. Fine. Now, does it do that? I'm reading the introduction aloud. It says, social maladies such as crime, teenage pregnancy are indeed a fundamental threat to the economic and social development of South Africa. So the country of choice here is South Africa. South Africa is plagued by corruption, or is affected negatively by corruption and violent crimes such as armed robbery, carjacking, gender-based violence, and murder. Now, this is crime in South Africa. And the country is also grappling with the high number of school-going teenagers falling pregnant. So what is the writer's choice? The writer's choice here is to focus on 2 social maladies or ills, namely crime and teenage pregnancy. And on crime, he is basically going to show us how crimes such as armed robbery, carjacking, gender-based violence, and murder can do what? Become a threat to the development of a country or nation of our choice, and the nation being South Africa, nation of choice being South Africa in this case. And secondly, not only is he focusing on crime, he is also focusing on the other social malady, which is teenage pregnancy. And he says that not only, where does he start with teenage pregnancy? He says the country is also grappling with high number of school-going teenagers falling pregnant. Such maladies or ills pose a serious threat to the economic and social development of South Africa. Do you see? Now, after reading this, do you get a sense of what the thesis statement is? I do. Do you get a sense of what to expect in the body of the essay? Yes, I do. Does it provide definitions and background information? It may not. It's not compulsory. But if the student is generous to do that, they can. But it's not compulsory, but it is important, absolutely important, to give us your thesis statement and also a general sense or idea of what to expect in the body of the essay. Let's look at the further analysis of that paragraph, that introductory paragraph. We said it should have a thesis statement. The analysis does show that it has a thesis statement. Here is the point. Social maladies such as crime and teenage pregnancy. This is taken straight from the topic. Let's look at the topic. Social maladies like crime, teenage pregnancy are fundamental threats to any country's development. Now, this statement, social maladies such as crime, or this sentence or part of the sentence that says social maladies such as crime and teenage pregnancy is taken from the topic, is part of the topic. So, remember, we said that a thesis statement is a combination of the topic and the controlling idea or position that the writer takes on the topic. In fact, the writer here has included both. He says he takes this from the topic and it says social maladies such as crime and teenage pregnancy are indeed. Is this not the position that the writer is taking? It is. He's taking a position on what? On the topic, and the topic being crime and teenage pregnancy. He says they are indeed, these are controlling, this is what it will be controlling their ideas in the body of the essay. When he says they are indeed fundamental threats to the economic and social development of South Africa, this writer is showing us that in his or her discussion, he will be basically showing us how they are a threat to the economy and social development of South Africa. Okay, in the middle there you see written in black background, rather on the black background, it says no background information is provided. Now the writer did not include that. We don't penalize because it's not compulsory. It is important that we always have the thesis statement, but also in addition, the writer doesn't give us any definitions. No definitions are provided. It's fine. Sometimes we feel we don't want to define anything. It's fine. But let's look at the last paragraph. Excuse me, the last section of the paragraph. It says South Africa is plagued by corruption and violent crime. So it is still based on the topic, but it says is plagued by corruption and violent crime such as armed robbery, gender-based violence, and murder. The country is also grappling with a high number of school-going teenagers who are pregnant. And then he ends with such maladies pose a serious threat to the economic and social development of Africa. So what is happening here is that the writer is giving us what? If you read with me here, right at the bottom, this part here, it says the information that summarizes the body of your essay and gives the reader a way to predict the structure of the essay. This information at the end of this introduction, it really does give a summary of what to expect in the body of the essay, and it helps me, the reader, to predict the structure of the essay as a whole. So it is a very good introduction indeed, because it has these things that we are looking for in an introduction of an expository essay. Look at what the student has done. These are examples that are written by students like you. It will be interesting to discuss these inputs by the students, but time doesn't allow us. But we can do this one. This is student A's draft introduction based on the same topic that I have shared with you. Look at this with me. In simple terms, this is written by a student. He writes and he says, in simple terms, I would define teenage pregnancy as a result when a girl under the age of 20 who is already experiencing periods, not on any contraceptive method, and has unprotected sexual intercourse with a male figure. So basically he's trying to define teenage pregnancy, but in doing so, he is actually showing us how teenagers get pregnant. But then that's the student's input. Previously, generations before ours had children at early ages, a lot of children. Circumstances were different then. That is, there were child marriages, lifestyle was cheaper there, and it was expected of a woman to become a housewife. Things are very different now, but still teenage pregnancy is rapidly growing. Wow. The student has really not fulfilled the requirements of an introduction. First, when I look right at the opening sentence, it is not a thesis statement, number one. Number two, because it is not a thesis statement, it is narrow in focus. The focus is not on two social maladies, it's on one social malady, that is pregnancy. Even there, the introduction does not leave you as the reader really convinced of being able to predict what to expect in the body of the essay. So it's not an introduction that has been put together nicely by the student. It still needs to be revised, reworked, so that it becomes a better introduction. I hope you understand what I am saying in terms of how to put together a very nice introduction that addresses the topic. Here is another student, that is student A, draft introduction. After it was revised, this is a better version of what the student wrote. And the better version reads as follows. Like any other country in the world, South Africa has social maladies. Now, this is the topic. It has social maladies such as illiteracy and HIV/AIDS. This is part of the topic, which fundamentally threatens. Now, this is the controlling idea, which fundamentally threatens. Now, it shows that the student is going to say in the body of the essay that illiteracy and HIV are a threat to the country's development. So basically that sentence, that first sentence, has both the topic and the controlling idea or the position of the writer, which shows how the writer intends to address the topic. After 26 years of democracy, South Africa still faces challenges of illiteracy, mostly in rural areas, and the stigmatization around HIV-positive residents. Illiteracy leads to underdevelopment and crime, among others, whilst the stigmatization and possibility of death of HIV-positive people. All right, so I think it has improved. It has improved so much because it also gives us information that summarizes the body of the essay and gives the reader the way to predict what to expect in the essay as a whole. It says illiteracy leads to underdevelopment and crime, among others. So I expect that the writer would write about these things to show how in the body illiteracy and crime lead to underdevelopment, and also how illiteracy can become a factor that leads to stigmatization and possibility of death of HIV positives. Now, basically the writer is focusing on illiteracy and teenage pregnancy, and so he's saying illiteracy leads to crime, which is bad for the economy, and he also says HIV leads to stigmatization and also the possibility of one dying, and this is negative for a country's development. These are the things that the writer will develop further in the body of the essay. All right, so I have shown you how to do it, and we have revised the introduction of the student, and we also have worked on how to put together introduction. What are the key areas that needs to be focused on when we write a very good introduction? I want to pause right here and thank you for attending. I really appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.